All right. Well, in honor of mine and Forrest's birthday, I actually have a slideshow I've prepared. It's about a 45-minute overview. Just the stuff you might have missed over the last 45 years. Too old. Okay, I'm really excited. Let me pray and we'll get into this week's message. Lord, thank you. Just JD's word about Palm Sunday and this king who could have come any way he chose, and he chose to come as a servant, and he chose to come with arms wide open, bringing peace. And we just celebrate the nature of God, Jesus. Thank you so much that you've welcomed us. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, we have been this is the third of a 3-week series called Jesus' Journey to the Cross. And we talked about a lot of stuff. This is actually the perfect Sunday to be here. If you're a person who's like, I'm here like once in a while, I'm not that consistent, we have like shrink wrapped this Sunday for you because next Sunday is Easter, so gotcha. You're going to have a 2-week streak like right away. Got to come on Easter. So that's cool. And I'm about to recap everything we've talked about for the last 2 weeks. So it's like you're going to get like 4 weeks of Sundays today and next week, easy. Get your punch card ready and then you're off to the races. So we've been in this series talking about Jesus' journey to the cross, and we've been looking in the book of Mark primarily. I shared a little bit last week. We have the Gospels. There's 4 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and they're about 20 to 25 chapters each, give or take. Don't send me an email. I know how many chapters. And what's interesting is if you look at it, we think about the gospel as the life of Jesus, and that's a good, nice little summary, but it's not equally weighted, right? It's his birth. That's kind of got a couple chapters, or maybe one. And then they skip a lot. And then he's a grown man doing this ministry. But even that, we know his ministry is probably about 2 to 3 years. But about 40% of the print in the Gospels is about the last week of his life. That makes me pay attention. That makes me go, man, there's some major stuff going on here. There's also about 11 stories, 11 little moments in the Gospels that are in all 4 versions. Okay, so each of them is a little different, a little unique, a viewpoint. And there's stories that one of them might tell and the other ones don't, or 2 of them tell. Those 11 stories, they're in all 4 of them. 10 of those 11 are in this last week of his life. So this is like major stuff. If you're trying to get the Cliff Notes version, I would focus, this will be on the test, right? This is the major stuff. And so we've been looking. In the first week, we talked about Jesus letting his disciples know. He's got these 12 kind of main followers, and he's got a bunch of other people that are kind of in it and peeking in the outside, but he's got 12 that he's gathered to himself, the 12 disciples. He tells them, I'm going to die. We're going now to Jerusalem, and when we get there, I'm going to suffer, I'm going to be betrayed, and we'll pull it up actually, because I have just like the Cliff Notes version of it. We're going to look at a few moments in this last week as we lead up to this, what we're really talking about today. It's up there. Okay, they're on the way up to Jerusalem, and this is the 3rd time he's told them this. He basically has the same conversation with them 3 times, with Jesus leading the way. He's leading the way. Where is he leading the way to? To Jerusalem. And the disciples were astonished, while those who, is this the right verse? It's my fault if it's not. Yeah, we're good. Those who followed were afraid. Again, he took the 12 aside and told them what was going to happen to him. We're going up to Jerusalem, he said. And the Son of Man, that's him, that's me, not Ryan, but Jesus, you understand? Will be delivered over to the chief priests and the teachers of the law. They will condemn him to death and hand him over to the Gentiles, who will mock him and spit on him and flog him and kill him. He had told the disciples this 2 times already, and the 3rd time he's adding more because it seems like you're not listening. He's like, you're spitting? They're going to spit on me? Are you listening? This is not going to be good. 3 days later, he will rise. So, just want to point out, he knows what's going to happen. This is not a story where the main character is walking through and every turn they're going, what is this? He knows exactly what's going to happen, and he is literally marching to Jerusalem. And I want you to imagine if I told you and I was certain, like, hey, Clark, in 5 days, if you go to burn it, this horrible stuff is going to happen. In 5 days, would you go to burn it? Would you go anywhere else? Clark's shaking his head, no, I wouldn't go there. I don't like getting spit on or any of that. I'm out on all of that. No, thank you. We're going to Jerusalem. He's leading the way. They're following him. He knows exactly what's going to happen, and yet he marches there with a decisiveness. This is where we're going. This is what we're doing, okay? Okay, we talked last week about the triumphal entry, and I said, and JD wasn't here, so Palm Sundays this week. I talked about it last week. We're doing crazy stuff in Antioch, Austin. But we talked about Jesus entering the city and all the stuff JD said about he's riding in on a donkey, a message of peace, and people are waving their palm branches, right? And Jesus is watching all of this, and he knows what's about to unfold. But he honors their worship. And somebody says they should stop worshiping. He said, no, this is good. Okay, moving on. We're in chapter 14 now where this happens, right? And after that entrance, he's over at somebody's house, and this woman pours out perfume on Jesus, and people are offended. People don't like it. And let's pull up that verse, 14, yeah. While he's in Bethany, reclining at the table in the home of Simon the leper, a woman came with an alabaster jar of very expensive perfume made of pure nard. She broke the jar and poured the perfume on his head. Some of those present were saying indignantly to one another, why this waste of perfume? It could have been sold for more than a year's wages and the money given to the poor. And they rebuked her harshly. And Jesus, what does he do? He says, you make some good points. Let's talk about budget. Where did that come from? No. Right? Jesus rebukes them. Jesus knows what's in their hearts. They're not thinking of the poor. They're missing out on the point. And Jesus is going, she comes to honor me. But she's the only one in the room who thinks that's a good idea. He knows all of their hearts, and yet he doesn't say, this was a huge mistake. Let's pack it up, guys. The Jerusalem tour is over. You guys are not worth it. He goes forward and does a whole lot more stuff, and I'm summarizing a lot of this. In verse 27, let's go to that one. He's talking to the disciples, and I'm summarizing here. He says this is the line you need to hear. These are his 12 main guys, right? Best friends. You will all fall away. He's telling them, this is the night. It's the last deal. We're having dinner. Let's go out. Let's go to Chewy's and kind of live it up. Last night, he says, you'll all fall away. How many of them are going to fall away? All of them. Okay, he knows. Imagine looking at someone and knowing, you're about to just walk away from me. Tonight's going to be the worst night of my life, maybe the worst night of anyone's life who's ever lived. And you're all about to just walk away. You want to split some nachos? What do we do? That would be an awkward dinner. For me, I would go, I'm going to go have dinner with someone else. Who are these guys? Right? He knows. He's looking at all of them, telling them what's going to happen. He calls one of them out. I don't have the quote for this, but he calls one of them out. He says, one of you is going to be the one that betrays me, that goes and tells someone how to come and get me. One of you in here. There's 12 of us. Somebody's doing that. The guy who takes the last nacho is doing that. I'm paraphrasing. But imagine walking around with that knowledge. And I do this. When I read the gospel so often, I'm thinking about it as one of the disciples. And what's in their mind? What's going on right now? This week I'm trying to look at this. What is going on inside of him? He's an actual person. He's fully man. And these are the people he spent the last 3 years every moment with and given his life to. And he's looking around going, you're all going to walk away. And one of you, I'm not naming names, one of you is going to betray me. One of you has already done the bad thing, and now you're going to sneak off into the night to bring people to arrest me. And he sits down and prays for them. And there is this moment, it's the Last Supper, right? And, he breaks bread and says, this is my body broken for you. And he prays that they would endure, even though he knows they're not going to. He knows they're about to fall away. And then Peter says, not me. Not me. I would never do that. These guys, sure. Right? James? Yeah, I'll give you James. Simon? Okay. The other Simon. But not me. And Jesus says, he could have just said, yeah, you will too. But he says, let me give you some details. You think you're going to be the best? Guess what? Before the rooster crows twice, you're going to deny me 3 times. 3 different times. You're going to say, I never knew that guy. Wow. But let's sit back down. Let's have some dinner. It'll be fun. This is insanity. Imagine if your friend was like, you caught up with an old friend. I haven't known what's going on in your life. Well, the last 3 years, man, I've been hanging out with these 12 guys, real tight group. We travel all over. We sleep in the same place and we go minister and pray for people and all this. And oh man, that sounds rich. That sounds awesome. What a great 12 guys. Yeah, I think tomorrow one of them is going to sell me to get killed. And the other 12 are other 11, they're all going to walk away. And they're going to pretend they didn't know me. But anyways, we're going to dinner tonight and I'm going to pray for him. It's going to be really good. You need counseling. These guys don't care about you, right? What in the world are you doing putting up with these friends? Then, after he tells Peter, you're going to deny me 3 times, he says, I want to go pray, and I'm going to invite 3 of you guys with me. Peter, you first. Come here. Peter's in the 3, right? He just told him, you're going to do the worst out of all of them, and then he says, come with me. I want to go pray. He invites these 3 guys to go pray. When he gets there, he says, my soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. And I want to make sure we hear this. This is a human being. He's fully God. He's also fully man. The emotions, the things you felt, the kind of betrayal you felt when you felt disappointed in other people or misunderstood, he feels all of that. That's all part of his experience. And he's not sitting there going, well, this is prophesied, and I know what's best. It's all good. No, he is overwhelmed. Overwhelmed to the point of death. Sorry, can you go back to that one? I want to keep that one there for a second. To the point of death. And he says to them, stay here and keep watch. But he's in this moment going, I don't know if I can even live another moment. Think about when you've been overwhelmed. I don't know what to do. That's where Jesus is at. And so he says, hey, stay with me, pray. And then here's what he prays. Going a little farther, he fell to the ground. We're good? Abba, Father, he said, this is perfect. I love this. Abba, Father, he said, everything is possible for you. Take this cup from me. Yet not what I will, but what you will. And there's a lot in here. I want us to meditate on this for a moment. Jesus, in this moment of being completely overwhelmed, he's looking into the 2 days from now. He knows exactly what's happening. He's had a series of what I would call pretty horrible experiences with his very best friends. He knows what's about to happen, and he's calling out to God, and he's saying, God, you can do anything. Everything is possible. I know how powerful the Father is, and I know you can do anything. God is able to do anything. And if it matters, I have a perspective. If I had my druthers here, I'd like to not do this. I'd like if we could just kind of go is there another way? Take this cup from me. He's not saying like, I don't know if I'm going to like this. No, this is horrible. I don't want it. Take this cup from me. God, do another thing. Prayer and petition to the Lord. That's how I read this. God, do something else. Yet, not what I will, but what you will. I want out of this. I don't like this. These guys are awful. There's all kinds of reasons he could want that. There's all kinds of reasons he could go, they're not even worth what I'm about to do. They don't deserve the sacrifice I'm about to make. But Father, do what you will. Then, I'll kind of skip around a little bit. He gets arrested that night. These guys show up. They arrest him. He gets brought in before different people, and they're trying to, accuse him of stuff. And he gets eventually to this guy named Pilate. And Pilate is basically like the middle manager who this all gets dumped on. And everybody's like, somebody's got to do it, you do it. And he's like, this doesn't seem like the way we normally do stuff. And he's talking to this guy. He's like, guy seems like a good guy to me. I don't know about any of this Jewish stuff, but this seems like a mess. I'd rather just kind of move on from here and not do anything. So his solution is, I remember, there's this trick we do where every once in a while we'll let the people pick and we'll release somebody. That is perfect because this guy, obviously, there's no reason to kill this guy. So I'll line up and I'll kind of like load the deck. I'll give two options. I'll give a horrible murderer and I'll give this guy who has said some inconvenient things. And I'll go, who should we release? And then I'll be absolved. I won't have to do any of this. Obviously, we'll let him go. We'll kill the other guy we were always going to. All good. And I still get my, end of the year bonus. Or I don't know how it worked. I'm not in on the details. Okay, but he's trying to pass the buck. He's basically saying, look, who do you want? And this is in chapter 15. He said, what shall I do then with the one you call the king of the Jews? Pilate asked, and this is the crowd. I don't have the attendance logs, okay? But I'm willing to bet there's some people who were in the beginning of the week waving the branches and throwing them on the ground and saying, Hosanna! And they're here now. And he says, what do you want me to do? And they say, Hosanna, that's our guy. No. They say, crucify him! Ouch. Okay? You want to talk about a politician favorability rating and how fast it changes. Coming into the city, they're waving branches. They're throwing them on the ground, throwing their cloaks down. Hosanna! This is our guy. And now, Pilate is saying, I'll do whatever you want. This guy, he hadn't done anything. What do you want me to do with him? Crucify him! And they're shouting. Now, imagine being Jesus, fully man. What have I done for the last several years? I've gone around to all these people's cities. I've healed the sick. They were hungry one day. I broke up some bread. I fed all these people. I've laid down my life in every moment. And now at the moment where I could use a solid, right? Just all they got to do is pick the murderer instead of me. They are yelling, crucify him. He knows what's in their hearts. He knows exactly what's about to happen. He's seeing that. He knows a week ago these people were pretending they're like my biggest fans of all time, and now here we are. And yet, we know what happens at the cross is not something that happens to Jesus. It's something that he submits to. Jesus chooses the cross. We're going to look at what that means. We're going to look at some different verses that talk about what it means to choose the cross, what Jesus did. Romans chapter 5, verse 8. But God demonstrates his own love for us in this: while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Active verb, not he was killed and it worked out. He died on purpose, chose the cross, went to the cross. For good people? Is that what it says? For worthy people? No. For sinners. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us. I am not a famous person, but I have this one YouTube video that's gotten like 100,000 views because a guy I knew took this little clip I gave and made a cool video, and people like the video. I'm just talking in the background. But here's what I'm talking about in that video. And you can go watch it, and we can get that view count up a little more. It's been slowed down. It's plateaued. It's not even on my channel because I don't have a channel. That's one of the reasons. But what I was talking about is the theology of dogs and cats. Do we have any dog people? God bless. Do you have any cat people? We don't need to see hands. Okay. Okay. There's a difference between dogs and cats. Big difference, right? You get a dog and you love a dog and you pet him and feed him and all this, and the dog's opinion of you does this. The dog is like, this guy is unbelievable. And every time you walk in the room or do anything, the dog's like, you again? You're unbelievable. The more you give to a cat, the more entitled it becomes. The cat is like, what do you think you're doing here? You brought me nothing. I don't do well with cats. It's mutual. They do not like me. I don't know why, but it's mutual. Now I'm on. Okay, cats. My opinion of cats has always been the larger ones want to eat us. We've got tiny ones. The heart is the same. Nothing has changed in the heart of the cat. But my point is, you love a cat, and the cat just becomes more and more convinced that it's worthy of your love. You love a dog, and the dog becomes more and more convinced that you are just the greatest person who's ever lived. And Jesus died for us while we didn't deserve it. And what we're not supposed to do is become more and more convinced that we're really actually pretty special. You know, when you think about it, most of us are pretty good inside, and we just make a couple little mistakes every now and then, and thank goodness God just kind of helped us because we deserve more than anybody. I recommended The Great Divorce 2 weeks ago. Timothy Chalamet, Nordyke. I'm sorry. I don't know TC. I don't know if he goes by that either. But Timothy was telling me he read it, and since I talked about it, it's phenomenal. Why am I talking about it? It's a great book. I don't know why. Oh, because in the book, I'm going to tell you, one of the themes in the book, and if you weren't here 2 weeks ago, again, was this catch-up Sunday. It's okay. If you weren't here 2 weeks ago, one of the themes, the book is about a group of people living in hell, and they get on a tour bus to go see heaven. And they're all like, what's the catch? Why would they let us do this? And the tour guide is basically like, everyone, we're going to go up there. If you want to stay, you can stay. The bus comes back at 6 o'clock or whatever. You can get back on the bus and we'll go back. Why would anyone come back? It sounds like this place is awesome. And what happens is they get there and they basically all find out, yeah, this isn't for me. And one of the main reasons you find that out is because some of the people come and they're like, well, this is really, I should have been here the whole time. This is kind of where I belonged. I was a pretty good guy. And the people, the residents of heaven, are informing them, oh, well, then you really can't stay. Because one of the things about staying is you have to understand you don't actually belong here. And if you realize you don't belong here, then you get to stay, and it's awesome. And it's this upside-down reality of our relationship with God. The more we believe we deserve this, the further we are from the truth of salvation. But coming to a place of understanding, that's me. Christ died for sinners. That's me. I'm not one of the guys who deserves it. I'm one of the 100% that don't. I'm in that part of the pie chart. Imagine a pie chart. People that deserve it in blue. It's a big blue circle. Or people that don't deserve it. People that deserve it, there is no color. It doesn't matter. There's none of you. And the more in touch with that we are, the easier it is to have a relationship with God because we're understanding the right orientation. We have a 4-year-old. It's about to get real. She is so sweet. And people are actually like, she's the sweetest girl in the whole world. And she is. Until she doesn't get what she wants. And one of the constant conflicts is we will just say something that we think is thoroughly reasonable, like, you've already had 2 desserts. That seems like enough. Why don't you love me? You are so mean all the time. You never do what I want to do. You only do what is mean and horrible. And she can go, it's impressive. One of the things we are cultivating in her is the understanding that this is a certain kind of relationship. And my responsibility as your parent is not to do what you want all the time, it is to do what is best for you. And if you can just align yourself and understand that is the nature of our relationship, things are going to be so much better for everybody. And we come into contact with God sometimes and we think the nature of our relationship is much, much closer to equals than it is. And when we understand, no, it's not like he's a buddy who's a little bit better than me or he's a little bit more moral. No, this is a perfect creator God who rode into the city on a donkey on purpose to lay his life down, and I am undeserving. That's a different orientation. Here's another passage in Titus 2, verse 14. Bookmark, there we go. Titus 2, verse 14. The word before this is Jesus Christ, who gave himself for us to redeem us from all wickedness and to purify for himself a people that are his very own, eager to do what is good. Jesus, who gave himself for us to redeem us from all wickedness and to purify for himself a people that are his very own, eager to do what is good. So, again, Jesus gave himself, chose it, his choice. Spends the whole week observing how horrible everyone is and undeserving and says, I'm still doing this. And one of the reasons he's doing this is because they need this. The reason they're horrible is because they need what I'm about to do. A lot of times we have expectations of people that if you just zoom out are thoroughly unreasonable. Like we get offended when people don't accommodate us, when people are selfish and all kinds of, just fill in the blank. How often do we get offended about the behavior of people? And then you zoom out and you're like, what are people like? If they don't have a Savior, if they haven't been thoroughly redeemed and purified, the default state is like, yeah, I would expect it to be pretty horrible. I bet people are going to do some awful stuff. That doesn't make it not awful. It's like we still can be hurt. And just like Jesus in the garden saying, I'm despondent, I'm, overwhelmed to the point of death, that's a reasonable response. But you also understand, well, they're doing exactly what you'd expect them to do. They need to be redeemed. They need to be purified. I was talking to Ray this morning. One of my running jokes when they asked me to preach is I show up on Sunday and I'm like, do you have any good sermon ideas? Like I don't have one. It's closer to the truth than you think, but it's a fun joke. And I was like, Ray, what if you just had to imagine you had to come up with a sermon in the next 45 minutes, what would you do? But Ray was telling me, he goes, man, what I think a lot of people need to hear, man, it's about selfishness. It's about how easy it is for us to put ourselves at the very center, and our whole world kind of revolves around us, and then we wonder why people aren't getting along with us. Why is communication hard? Why is all this hard? And it's the natural state of us outside of massive intervention from a Savior. Jesus said, I don't know that this is what went down in his head, but I think part of it was, these guys are lousy. I need to change them. They need to be purified. So I'm going to go. What is it going to take? I'll go to the cross? Okay, that sounds awful. I'm going to do it. Let's go to 1 John. Which I did not. Oh, I did mark it. Yeah. 1 John 3:16. This is how we know what love is. Jesus Christ, active verb, laid down his life for us. And we ought to lay down our lives for our brothers. Jesus laid down his life. This is love. A God who would choose to do this. And we mentioned it. Next week is Easter Sunday. The average Joe who is not going to church all the time, this is a week where he's going, man, maybe we should check that out. Maybe I'll sneak in on an Easter, kind of feel a little better. So there's an openness. I think that's kind of a cool thing. There's an openness of people going, I kind of want to check this out. One of the things, I don't have the research here. I don't know if it's number one. One of the things that keeps people away from church is their interactions with all of us, right? It's people who follow God and maybe aren't laying down their lives for their brothers and sisters, right? And this is not a blame game and all of us going, oh man, I'm really horrible. It's not about that. What my experience, because this was me, I grew up in Houston, Texas. I just took a trip with my oldest to Houston, and we got to see like the house I grew up in my high school and all this stuff. And when I grew up, we were not like church-going folk. Every once in a while, we'd kind of, wander in, and another 6 months, 2 years would go by, and we'd wander in again. It was not a big priority. I would not have called myself like a believer. But I got invited every once in a while to stuff. And I specifically remember, I'm too old. This is 30 years ago. And somebody invited me to this youth group sleepover thing. It's a bunch of people. I knew one guy from my high school. We get there and he hangs out with his church friends the whole time. I didn't see him again since we got there. And nobody else was in any way like, oh, what are you up to? I didn't know. I'd never seen you before. Do you want to come play a video game or do this? I basically just like sat there the whole night chilling, didn't bring a book. Should have brought a paperback or something. I would have been occupied at least. I remember leaving like, that was so lame, right? And if somebody had invited me to church the next week, I would have been like, no, I'm good. Thanks. I checked it out. I got my review. So I had a bad experience, and I had a number of those, okay? But then I had a different experience. There was two guys I had gone to high school with, different guy than the youth group guy. And a year after we graduate, I start hanging out with those guys a lot. My whole freshman year, I'm spending time with them, JJ and Nassim. And Nassim is a tough name to say, so whenever he would go to a restaurant and they asked for a reservation, like, what's your name? He would just say, Steve. Because if he said Nassim, they would go, Steve. So he just started off with Steve. Just write down Steve. Anyways, these guys went to high school with me. They had started following Jesus. One of them for a few years, and one of them, like our senior year of high school, started following God. And they started laying down their life for me. They started welcoming me into places where I wouldn't have felt welcome. They started making space in their lives, which were going good. They started making space for me who needed a spot. And I still remember riding around with JJ in his green pickup truck. And he would take me all kinds of places, and everything he was doing. His first call, first text, there was no text back then, his first call would be, hey, do you want to come? We're doing this thing. And I remember being in Houston the summer after my freshman year, and John and I drove by this big church in Houston, and I was like, that's the church, that's where Daddy gave his life to God. Because JJ invited me. JJ said, hey, we're going to this thing, Metro Bible Study in Houston. It's at this big Baptist church. And I was like, sure, I'll go. Didn't have anything to do and whatever. I go to this place, and this guy, pastor from Dallas named Steve Stroop, shared the gospel. And what he shared was like, I probably had heard it 100 times before, but I had never heard a word of it. I had never understood what he was talking about. And what he was talking about was this. He was talking about we all are messed up. Every one of us needs help, needs a Savior, and there's a God in heaven, and that's who the invitation is for. It's not for people who are fixed. It's not like a 12-week program. Get yourself together, and then God will say, okay, now you're on probation. It's arms wide open for people who don't deserve it. And I want to say all that just to say, those guys were awesome, but it wasn't like it took 1,000 of them to overcome my one bad experience. It was the opposite. It took 2 of them, and I had 100 bad experiences. And that didn't convince me all Christians are awesome, but it was like, well, I'll check it out. This guy seems a little different. I'm going to check that out. And we got an Easter service come up and fancy glossy invitations, and I would just encourage everybody, like who's somebody you could just say, hey, man, I'd love for you to come check it out with us. It'd be fantastic. And the worst case scenario is they're like, nah, I'm not going to go, but that was really sweet of you. Thanks. That's probably the worst thing that's going to happen. Don't hold me to that. But for 99% of us, that's the worst thing that's going to happen. I'll guarantee. But that's really the call. That's the call of Jesus. To lay down our lives for our friends. So we're going to close the service. I don't know if are we having the worship? I'm a little early. I'm never good on time. You guys, thank you guys. So I'm going to pray, and I just want to encourage you guys. We're going to take a moment and just consider, like, who could I lay my life down for? Is there somebody out there that's just so obvious? Like, the right answer is like everybody, but manage your schedule appropriately. Think about who is the person in my life that I could lay down my life. And that looks simple. That doesn't mean selling all your possessions and giving it to them. Maybe it will for some of us. I don't know. But a lot of times what it means is just opening up a space in your heart and your life for them and saying, hey, I'd love to share with you why this is going on. When they're going through a hard time, how can I help? What's going on? So I'm going to pray, and I just would invite you guys to open up your hearts and say, God, how can I do this? This really simple thing that God did in a much, much, much harder, challenging situation where everybody is against him, everybody's moving on and making these horrible choices that he sees clear as day and sees inside all of their hearts, and yet he chooses to go die on a cross. And what he calls us to is, don't be offended. Yeah, people are kind of a letdown. That's reality. That's unredeemed nature of man. Lay down your life. Allow that person some space and invite them into what God's doing. So Jesus, we thank you for who you are. We thank you that you are a God who rides in on a borrowed donkey. You could have come with thunder and lightning and judgment, and you would have been right. But you chose to come with peace and open arms and a sacrificial heart that says, I'm coming here to die, to literally lay my life down for people who do not deserve it. I just ask that that reality would penetrate our hearts today, that we would have the right level of thankfulness, the right understanding in our hearts of the goodness of God. And that we'd have the same mind, the same heart to lay our lives down. In Jesus' name.